welcome back to our channel. We are James and Keli, and we are converting this Ram ProMaster so that we can travel to South America with our 2 cats.
In today's episode, we are going to show you our electrical setup. So stupid.
If you want to shop our entire electrical setup, you can click the links in the description where we have our Amazon storefront where we've linked everything that we've bought from Amazon there, and a link to Renogy where we bought our batteries, solar controller, solar panels, inverter, and
almost our entire setup.
Make sure to click the link in the description.
This is our full electrical system for our van. And I'm going to start breaking it down with our batteries, which is our most asked question about our van, is how much battery power, how much electricity do we have inside our van? We have 3 100 amp hour lithium phosphate batteries from Renogy. They are Bluetooth, which is awesome. We can check their status on their phones, how much charge they have, and how much amps they're emitting. They are connected in parallel using 4-aught wires. We upgraded the wires that connect our batteries to these 4-aught wires, and we did this because we have a 3000 watt inverter that has shore power capability, and we wanted our wires to be able to withstand the current needed for all of that power coming in. From our batteries, you can follow our positive line to our first fuse, which is our main fuse for our batteries. From the fuse, it goes down to our first on and off switch, which we bought off Amazon. And to purchase any of our electrical items off Amazon, go ahead and click the link below to check out our Amazon store. From our on-off switch, it goes down to our Lynx distributor, which is also where the negative line from our batteries goes. We made sure that the cords running from our batteries, both positive and negative, were the same length, including the cuts in the positive. That way they don't lose any voltage running from our batteries to our distribution panel. From the top, it runs down to our Lynx distributor, which is a Victron energy product. We bought this off Amazon because we thought this was the best way to distribute all of our electrical power and cords to everything that we had. The Lynx distributor is basically a positive and negative bus bar that's stacked on top of each other. And what's great about this is you can put all of your fuses also inside of this. So each one of our positive cables running out of this is fused inside, just making it a nice compact bus bars for both our positive and negative. Our Lynx distributor has 4 main positive and negative attachments. They run to our solar charger, our 3000 watt inverter, our 12 volt fuse box, and our smaller 375 watt inverter. From the Lynx distributor, we're going to move up to our solar charger. The wires run inside of our box, up the top to our solar charger. Up top here, we have our Renogy solar charger. This takes solar energy from our solar panels and converts it into 12 volt electricity to charge our batteries. Not only does our Renogy solar controller charge our batteries using solar power, but it can also charge our batteries using our alternator in our van. We have 2 8-aught wires that run down the side of our van to the front and connects to our car's battery. So when we turn the car on, the alternator can not only charge our car's battery, but also our house batteries back here. If you follow these 2 cords, they'll lead down to the side of our box, which is our solar shutoff. From our solar shutoff, it runs through the corner of our van up to our roof to our 3 solar panels. The wires pass through our ceiling through our scan strut wire pass through. This thing's awesome because it allows multiple wires to pass through it, and it stays watertight, and we can even add more wires as time goes on if we ever want to add something onto our roof. Up here we have our 3 200 watt solar panels that we got from Renogy, and they provide us with enough solar energy to pretty much charge our batteries doing our regular day-to-day stuff, so we don't have to worry about our batteries depleting in electricity. We installed all of our solar panels on our DIY roof rack that we've made out of aluminum extrusion T-slot bars. If you want to check out how we built our roof rack, go ahead and click the link below to watch our entire video. And if you want to learn how we rebuilt our roof rack, go ahead and click the other link. From here, we go back inside the van to our Lynx distributor, to our next part in our electrical system, which is our 3000 watt inverter. We have 2 4-aught wires coming out of our Lynx distributor that is fused on the positive end that feed into our inverter, which is used to power household appliances such as computers, blenders, coffee makers, and all of that stuff. Not only does our inverter convert the voltage, but it can also be powered through shore power, which means that we can plug into campsites or even a house using a plug-in that we have on the outside of our van. We have a lot of wires coming out of our inverter. We have the positive and negative for our 120 volt. We have the ground wire coming out. And we have 2 communication cables that come out that allow us to turn on and off the inverter and track what it's doing. Now back to our Lynx distributor, which, as you can see, the bus bars play an important role in an electrical system, and you'll always be going back to them. The next part in our Lynx distributor is our 12 volt fuse box, which is also our 120 volt fuse box. This is our fuse box, which is an awesome fuse box because it has both 12 volt at the top here and 120 volt on the side. This allows us to only have 1 box instead of 2, which saves a lot of space. The only negative that I see from this is all of our cords run into this, so that means we have all of our cords running out. And as you can see, we have a lot of wires running out from this fuse box. The top part of our fuse box is where all of our 12 volt fuses go, and we bought a bunch of 12 volt fuses off Amazon. They're pretty cheap and they come in a variety of 12 volt amperages for all of your 12 volt needs. We use our 12 volt electricity to power our USB plugins and a variety of appliances like our heater and our stove. Down below we have our breakers for our 120 volts. Up top is our main breaker, which is 30 amps, and then down below we have 2 20 amp dual breakers. These will power all of our 120 volt appliances like our water heater and all of our 120 volt outlets. Now let's go back to our Lynx distributor, which goes to our last connection point, which is our smaller inverter, a 370 watt inverter. This is a Victron pure sine wave inverter. We have not installed this inverter yet because we are still completing our upper cabinet. But once our cabinets are completed, we plan on installing this, and this is going to be for our internet. This way we always have Wi-Fi in our van. And we chose to have a permanent smaller one because if we kept our 3000 watt inverter on all the time, it will use a lot more electricity than this smaller one would. Now that I've talked a bunch about our electrical system, let's have Kelly talk about the wires that we used in our van.
Before we talk about the wiring, we do want to quickly say that all of our batteries, inverter, distributor, everything over here is grounded. We have it all grounded to a grounding bar. From the bar, there is a wire that goes to the metal frame of our van that grounds everything. From our fuse panel, we have all of the wires going throughout the rest of our van. We have quite a bit of wires, as you can see, that are going every which direction. We chose to go with 12 gauge marine grade wire from Anchor. We bought this off of Amazon, and we decided to go with marine grade because it's a lot safer in a moving vehicle, and if we ever get condensation behind our walling because of the metal in the van, which is almost bound to happen, these wires are going to be a lot safer inside of our van than your standard household wires. We have 2 different types of marine grade wire. We have a 12 volt one, which is just a positive and negative wire, and we have a 120 grade wire that just has a positive, negative, and a neutral wire in it. We made sure to do all of our wiring before putting any of our walling up, our ceiling, cabinetry, anything like that, because this all needs to be done prior to putting anything in the walls because you don't want it to be visible. So all of our wires distribute out this way. Anything that goes to the front of our van, like our fridge, heater, outlets, that all kind of runs right down here. Then we have wires that shoot up through this wall panel that go up into our ceiling, or it'll go to the back of our van to supply lights and electricity to different outlets. We also have wires that are going through this big panel right here, but we wrap them up in conduit. Conduit is a major thing that you should look into buying and using when putting wiring in your van, because you don't want any sort of metal rubbing up against the wires, because over time with the vibrations in your vehicle and the metal rubbing up against the sheathing, it will cause damage and it can eventually lead to a short circuit. We are connecting everything using lever nuts. The only time we are not using a lever nut is if it's a 120 volt outlet. We bought 2 different types of lever nuts. We bought a 2 conductor and a 3 conductor. 2 conductors are used to connect 2 different wires together, where a 3 conductor lever nut is to attach 3 different wires together. We are using lever nuts for almost everything in our van to not only connect 2 wires together so that we only have to use 1 fuse in our fuse box, but also to do simple things like our light switch. Since we have so many different wires that are coming into our fuse panel, we wanted to make sure that they were hidden. So how we built our electrical box where everything sits on, we left enough space inside of the box for all of the wires to go behind the fuse box, and they're not visible. Now let's go back to when we were kind of working on our electrical setup to show you how we set up our alternator charger in our Ram ProMaster. Today we are running our wiring for our alternator charger. That way, when we are driving or the van is turned on, we are also going to be charging our batteries. That's going to give us 3 ways of charging our batteries. We have 1 solar, 2 shore power, and 3 alternator charger. That way we should never run out of electricity. The first step is to take off all of the panels. We got the panel that shows our batteries, and then we've had to unscrew all of these side panels to get this piece off, and we have to take this panel off. The easiest way to do it, just pull your chair forward, and then it should easily slide off. And now, to do the final clip. This is stuck. Woo! That is dirty. The Renogy kit that we got gives us a smart alternator connector that if we had a smart alternator we needed to connect it to. And we're not really sure what we have, so we've hooked up a voltage reader to the van right when we started, and it was reading about 14 volts. And in about 5 minutes, if we test it again and it still says 14, we don't have a smart alternator and we don't have to worry about it, which means we just have to connect 2 wires, the positive and the negative, and run it back to the solar charger. So hopefully it's a traditional, we don't have to worry about that part. We have ran the cables that we are using for our DC to DC charger. However, as you can see, we don't have any cable ends. That is because we need a 5/16 end cable, and we also need to get a 60 amp fuse that goes under here. All of that should arrive tomorrow because we purchased it off Amazon. To run the wires, we put it in a split conduit, the positive and negative, and then we have just kind of ran them underneath this. As you can see, it's not fully pressed down yet, which we will clean it up. So it'll come to the top, and then this piece right here was already kind of bulged up, so we just use that piece to run the split conduit, and then it goes right around here, makes a sharp corner. So as you can see, we've ran it underneath, and it comes out right about here. So there's no real things that are in the way of this split conduit. We're going to put a notch in the bottom of our partition wall so that our partition wall can still stay flush up against this. And then it goes right around into our framing and into our controller. But we haven't connected those wires either. After running the wires to the alternator yesterday, we had to wait to get the 6 amp bolt down fuse. And once we got that installed, it's pretty easy, just with a 5/16 and a square head bolt and washer. We then had to crimp the ends to the cable, and I'm going to heat shrink using a hair dryer. We got the fuse connected, so you make sure that your positive is connected to the end of the fuse. You don't want it here because this is the power end, and if you put it here it won't do anything. So it goes with the rest of your fuses. And then we're going to test to make sure it works before we tie up the ends. Okay. We plug the battery back in, start the car. We're going to test to see if it's working.
Yep, 14.3.
Sweet. We we've gone ahead and connected the negative cable to the negative battery. We did have to go out and buy a nut to fit the bolt that was in there. It is an M6 built, so it did fit the M6 nut that we bought. We bought quite a few different sizes just to make sure we had the right one. But with the conduit here, it should protect it enough from this metal scratching it. We taped it up. We did cut back the conduit to kind of end right about here, so that way when it passes underneath this plastic piece, it doesn't bulge up our flooring, and it's nice and secure close to the ground. There is some foam already back here, so we weren't too worried about them getting scratched up or anything. So now it's nice and flush. We're good to secure it. We do have a few tips on installing your electrics that might make it a little bit easier for you if you were planning to make your own electrical setup in a van conversion. First one being to plan everything in advance. So what we did before we even built a single thing into our van was draw out our layout where everything will go. That includes our water heater, our heater, our stove, every single outlet that we'll have in our van, every light switch, down to 120 volt and to 120. We printed out the layout, marked on it using colors and everything that we possibly could to make sure that we had every single wire going to where we needed it to go.
Tip number 2 would be to upgrade your wires to make sure they can handle the current that flows through your electrical system. We had to do that with our batteries, like we mentioned before, to handle the current from our inverter and any shore power coming into the system. But also remember to protect all the cords in your system. Make sure any sharp edges that a wire goes through is either covered with a conduit protecting the wire, or that you smooth down those sharp edges.
The third tip is to make sure that you have enough batteries to be able to power everything that you need in your van, and it also matches your inverter size. So for example, we have a 3000 watt inverter, so we need to have a minimum of 300 amp hours of batteries. We probably should have 400 amp hours, but we're not going to be running that much stuff off 120 to really be worried about needing that extra 100 amp hours of battery. Maybe down the line we'll add one in, but for now I think we're okay.
Tip number 4 is to plan out your space for your electrical system before you build anything. And I recommend really thinking about where things go and how they'll connect with each other before you just start throwing things together. One of the things that we don't like about our current situation, the lid that our batteries sit on is kind of annoying because we have to take it off to access any of the wires inside of the box, which means we have to take off all the batteries and all the cords and wires that we have connected to this top lid and back wall we have to disconnect, and it's just kind of a hassle to get into the box. Now that everything's put together and we don't need to get inside the box, it looks nice, but it is something that did cause quite a headache while we were putting everything together.
So to go off of what James was saying is to make sure that you have your design ready. Also mock up where you're planning to put all of your batteries, your Lynx distributor if you have one, the inverter, every single cord that's going to run through it, your fuse box. Plan all of that out and kind of mock it before you start putting things up onto the wall or where you're going to be having your electric. We didn't really do that because we pre-built a box for our wheel well and we wanted to keep it. So we were kind of stuck to that design, which meant that we were just kind of winging it where everything would go. We knew the batteries could go on the top, but we were not set in stone with one design before, which kind of made our electrical a headache.
Tip number 6 is about our solar panels, and it's something we learned through experience, and that's to make sure you give your solar panels enough room for thermal expansion. The first time we installed our solar panels, they were inset in between our bars, and they were, I guess, a little bit too close, and one of our solar panels, the aluminum, literally bent up away from the glass, so we had to get it replaced, and we rebuilt our entire rack so the solar panels sit above everything and have enough room to expand in any heat. So yeah.
I mean, we don't really know if that was the reason why it broke, but it was the most logical reason for what we were dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And the last tip would be to make sure that you leave enough space with your wiring and maybe even in your fuse box to add any more electrical that you might need down the road. Because things do get missed while you are building and trying to put all of your wires up, trying to pre-plan, it's more than likely that you might miss something that you will want in your van.
Or you might just want to add something later on, thinking that, oh, it would be great if I just had this right there.
That's why lever nuts do come in handy, so you can daisy chain off of a pre-existing outlet that's already there. So just keep that in mind when you are planning out your layout and you're going further down the road of VanBuild.
Thanks for watching this video. We hope that it informed you a little bit about our electrical system and maybe help you in building your own electrical system. If you want to check out our entire VanBuild series, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below about what you liked or didn't like about our electrical system.
Yeah, we love the feedback. So, all right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See ya.